Hi, welcome to this 7th and last tutorial on our Git and GitHub series. Till now we have covered the basic terminal and Git commands, and in the last tutorial we created our first remote repository on GitHub and pushed our first commit. In this tutorial we would cover how to pull a commit from remote repository to your local system, how to create copy of our origin branch using Git Clone command and the concept of forking. I will also discuss about the basic difference between forking and cloning. Let's talk about some theory first. Git Pull command lets you pull any changes which might have occurred on remote repository but currently is not updated on your local repository. This usually happens when there are other contributors and someone might have added some new feature, and since you have not worked on that feature, it will be missing from your local repository of the project. So in order to update your local repository with the changes committed by someone else, you have to pull the changes from remote repository using Git Pull command. Let's move on to discuss about the concept of cloning and forking. Both cloning and forking conceptually creates a copy of remote repository, but the difference lies in their workflow. Forking is a concept while cloning is a process. Forking is just containing a separate copy of the repository and there is no command involved. Cloning, however, is done through the command git clone, and it is a process of receiving all the code files to the local machine. In simple language, forking would create a copy of your remote repository into another remote repository on GitHub, whereas cloning would create a copy of your remote repository into your local system. Now let's move on to our Git command terminal and see these commands in action. So let's start with Git Pull command. Git Pull, as explained, would pull the changes which have been made on the remote repository to your local system, and in order to do that we will first go to our GitHub account and make some changes in one of the existing files and then pull those changes into our local system. So first we'll open our GitHub account. This is our remote repository wherein we have two branches, master branch and code, and these are our two files which we committed earlier. Now what we'll do is we'll open any of the two files and make some changes in the file. Let's suppose we open text.txt. As of now we have only 3 codes added in our text file. We'll check the same in our local file. These are the exact same 3 codes we have in both our local repository as well as remote repository. Now let's make some changes in our remote repository. Let's edit this file and maybe add another code into it. So let me save this code and make a commit. We'll put the message 4th code added and commit our changes. We'll go back to our code. You will see that text.txt is updated just now and it is displaying the message which is 4th code added. We have made the change in our remote repository. It will not reflect in our local repository since we have not pulled the changes yet. So in order to pull the changes, we'll go to our Git command terminal. We'll simply write this command git pull origin master and enter. So it will give you a confirmation that the changes are done. Now if you go back to your folder and open the text file, you will see that the 4th code is now featuring there. So this is how we will pull the changes from our remote repository to our local repository. Now what we'll do is we will try and clone a repository into our local system. Now for Git clone, what we will do is we will try and clone the same remote repository into our local system. Since our local repository as well as the remote repository are exactly the same, what we will do is we will try and clone the same remote repository into a new folder in our local system. So for that I'll move out of this folder using cd ..command, and in documents let me make a new folder or directory by the name clone test. So the moment I'm done with this folder, I'll go into this folder, and now in this folder we want to copy our remote repository. Now in order to clone our remote repository, the command we have to use is git clone followed by the link of our remote repository. Now in order to check the link, you can always go to this code option and copy the link and paste it here, and the moment I press enter, it will clone all the git practice repository into this folder. Now if we go on to this folder, which is in my documents, we will see that we have this folder named clone test, and we have our folder git practice and both the files, which is text and new feature. And if you check the text file, it will contain all the 4 codes which we have in our remote repository. Now let's see how the forking function works. Forking, as explained earlier, is a concept and not a command. And forking only creates a copy of a remote repository into your remote repository. Now it is not possible to create a copy of a repository which you already own. For example, if you see this git practice, since I am the owner of this repository, I would not be able to fork it. If I try and click on fork, it will give me an error like I cannot fork because I own this repository. So for that, we have to explore various repositories which are available on GitHub and probably fork a particular repository on which we want to contribute or work. Let's say we pick up this repository, which is best of machine learning Python. So if I click here, you'll be able to see all the commits which have been done, how many branches are there, how many tags are there, how many contributors are there, and everything you will be able to view. Now what you can do is you can simply fork. So this repository has already been forked by 378 people. And if you fork this, you will be copying this repository and making your own repository. So it will take some time. And if you see this, you have already make a copy of this file, and now you are the owner of this repository, and it shows the message that it is forked from ML tooling best of ML Python. So this is how you fork a remote repository which belongs to some other person into your GitHub account, which is your remote repository. And you can make whatever changes you want to make in this repository. With this, we are done with all of our basic Git and GitHub commands. I hope you like this entire series. There are a lot of Git and GitHub commands which are available to be explored, and you can refer to the Git documentation for those commands. I hope you got the hold of basic functionality of Git and GitHub. Do share your feedback regarding this series in the comment section below. Also feel free to mention other topics which you want me to cover in future videos. And do support by liking and sharing the series with others. And do subscribe to my channel, Train and Test. Thank you.